we give money, we can give shelter, we can give clothes, we can give medicines, and we can try and help whoever it is we know in these methods. In London, food banks have become a regular feature. Before the pandemic, that wasn't so, but maybe again, it exists in little pockets, corners, but it's again being lighted. And you see food bank neighborhoods. So we can do all of that. And that's important. We should be doing all of that. In terms of actually helping uplift others, I think there's a few more elements to explore. I mentioned sharing medicines, and that's important in countries where they don't have a national health service. And if I look at the map, there's many places like that where there is just no help available from the government. The government itself isn't managing, and so how can they provide free medication? But yet, there's something that we can all do to help those in need in terms of health. There have been a lot of experiments done over the last several years in terms of prayer and meditation, and how this is able to actually reverse disease and help others become well and healthy. They had control groups, a group where people were meditating or praying for them, another group where people weren't praying for them. The ones that were receiving the good vibrations of prayer and meditation got well. The control group got to know and said, but what about us? And so, of course, then the meditators and the praying people also helped them. So this is a reality. Vibrations work in a very powerful way. It's not magic. It's called energy. And yes, if there's physical energy, then we know what that feels like. But we also know that there can be a higher energy than just physical energy. There can be emotional energy. There can be spiritual energy. And so what prayer and meditation is doing is using the highest level of spiritual energy. And that can reach one person, many people. One individual can do this, a collective can do this. And somehow, especially since the pandemic started, we get people from all over who say, can you please send your thoughts and God's remembrance to this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. And we share that in the meditation class, and people collectively send good vibrations in that direction. And very often people then write back to us, tell us how it had worked, or actually come to the center and tell us the same thing. So there's many different ways that we can help. And all of that external physical help that I mentioned is so important. And yes, Christianity has really served the world in this particular aspect. Schools have been opened, hospitals have been opened, food centers have been opened, so many parts of the world by missionaries. But of course, all the other traditions share the same idea also, that giving is actually a higher consciousness than receiving. Yes, when I receive, let it be with humility and gratitude. But yes, also let me know that it is in giving that I can actually receive. This is something that every tradition teaches us. But also, I'm thinking about what should be the quality of giving. And it's so important to let it be altruistic giving according to the law of karma. If I sow good seeds, I'm going to get sweet fruits as a result of that. If I sow bittersweet seeds, then the result of that is going to be sadness and sorrow for me. And we know this. It's again a precept that comes in all the traditions. But can I truly check myself and ask if the seeds that I sow are just simply purely out of love for my fellow human being? It doesn't have to be my immediate family, but for whoever. And it has to be inclusive. It cannot exclude. And so the seed of me is love, altruistic, unconditional love, love that includes everyone, but also it seeks nothing for itself. And so I'm not giving because I know that the return is going to come to me. But in the giving is the receiving. Yes, what I do immediately receive is love of people's hearts, their good wishes that are like the air beneath my wings that can help me fly further. So there is huge benefit here and now, and whatever is to come in the future, it's going to come. I don't have to think about it. But sometimes a few things get mixed in. Sometimes it's a little bit of a business. If I give, is my name going to be up on the plate? If I give, will there be some sort of return that I get, some advantages, some privileges? And so a deep checking inside. Is it pure love that's the motivating force for me to be able to give whatever it is I'm giving? Or is there some hidden agenda, some motive that I haven't been able to identify for myself? And so let me go very deep within and able to renounce fruit of good deed, karma. And so that cleansing is a very important part of mercy. And I find myself connecting mercy and compassion together. They're very, very close. And I noticed that in the translation for mercy, they used two words, daya and rehem. And yes, it works with both words. But equally, I think that sometimes we can have compassion and mercy interchangeably. But yes, I also see that mercy is that concern and the sympathy, but compassion is the empathy, where I'm actually able to stand in the shoes of the other and understand it is maybe going. And so my in different quality of giving. It's giving with a huge amount of compassion in the heart. When there's empathy, then there can be compassion because I can truly feel what the other one is going through. And so in that sense, it's more that I'm able to give emotional support where it is needed. And maybe it's not in just emotional support, it's again on a very external level, but the internal and external work together. I'm able to give of myself, which means giving my time. Am I able to have such compassion that I can help uplift another? And I won't try to keep dividing them up, but just simply share my thoughts because I'm also thinking that in mercy, there can be a twinge of pity mixed in, and that's then not a nice feeling for the recipient. And also maybe a little bit of the sense of looking down on others. But no, mercy is a very beautiful word or concept, because like Dr. Manoj pointed out in the beginning, Christ's words to God, have mercy on them, forgive them. Truly, when we seek forgiveness from God, it is God's mercy and compassion that allows us to feel that, yes, I have been honest, I have understood what I need to do, I'm ready for transformation through that realization, and God's love is able to uplift me and help me settle whatever mistake I may have made, however grave that mistake may be. When we ask God for purification, again, God's mercy and compassion comes into the picture, and God is able to uplift us. Another aspect of mercy is when I don't want another person to become dependent on me, because human nature is that to be loved, we loved, needed. And so if it makes me feel valued and respected. If I'm actually needed by another, I feel very satisfied by that feeling that, yes, my time is being used in a very worthwhile way. But mercy actually means to be able to help another one to the extent that they themselves are able to become self-sufficient, self-reliant, rather than dependent on me. So I'm helping them move towards that state of freedom and independence. And there's a non-vegetarian little story that explains this very well. And it goes something like this. It says, if I feed a man a fish, I feed him for a day. But if I teach a man how to fish, I feed him for life. And so I'm not encouraging fishing and I'm not encouraging eating fishes, but definitely that concept that I can give a man a piece of bread, but if I can teach him how to earn his own bread, that would be far more satisfying for him, so that he doesn't have to turn to it again and again. And that idea that I'm actually helping another one be uplifted. And so in a bigger picture, I see that when there's education, when there's a process of learning, then if I can be engaged in that, then that is real mercy and compassion. And I know that teachers in the world out there generally have a very hard time in today's world, because it feels as if values have been lost to the world. And so many homes in which children grow up don't, in a normal way, teach values at home. And so the expectation is that the teachers will teach them values, and the teachers that the children taught values, and it's get caught somewhere in between. Certainly the teachers I've spoken to in England all share the very difficult time they are having, but I'm sure it's the same all over. Because of this challenge that we're facing in the world today, in which where values were the foundation for life for everyone, all of society. Now it really seems that values have been pulled away on all levels. But yet the real spirit of education, to be able to inspire another, to allow that which is there within them to emerge and be expressed, educare, to lead out from within. And no two human beings are the same, so no two children are the same. And so mercy and compassion in this context, to be able to teach them in the way that they understand best, they are able to express themselves in the best possible way. And so that idea of really allowing someone to grow, and I've been using the word children, but in fact, it applies to adults also. Am I able to give such company to another that my company allows them to grow in their journey and to move forward towards the aim, the goal that they have for themselves? Not the aim that I set or the target that I set, but being able to inspire and encourage so that they can see more clearly what is their goal and role and be able to move forward in that way. So mercy and compassion on that level within the physical domain is absolutely vital, but also emotionally. We've now understood how you can have a very high IQ, but if you don't have a corresponding EQ, if there's emotional immaturity, there'll be challenges not only in relationships that are family or friends, but relationships at work, relationships in a team, relationships with seniors and juniors on all levels. And so when people are looking for qualifications, it's not just IQ any longer. They're also looking for evidence of EQ, emotional quotient, to see to what extent people have that too. So here I am dealing with somebody who it feels doesn't have a huge amount of emotional maturity. My aim is that compassion for them, for them, that I find a way to help them develop and grow further. And what I've found is that the best way to help another is first just simply to love them. And the other reality is that I can only love others when I've learned to love myself. And spirituality teaches me to love myself, because from an external perspective, there'll always be higher and lower. And so in company with some, I'll feel inferior. In company with others, I'll feel superior. And neither state is healthy. Feeling superior and looking down on others, that's big time ego. Feeling inferior and feel that others are looking down on me is very disheartening. And again, it's not strictly correct, because spirituality teaches me every single human soul has value. Every single human soul is unique. No two can be compared to another. Not possible. Look at the leaves on a tree, any tree, and you'll find that every leaf is very, very different. Same thing. No two souls can be identical. A little bit extra love in one, a little bit extra wisdom in another, a little bit extra peace in another, different qualities, different percentages. And so we all share the same basic qualities, but we are not connected with them most of the time. We've forgotten about them because we've had so much focus on the external identity and external role. And so color, caste, creed, all of these things interfere. And depending on my own consciousness, and if my consciousness is connected with all these external things, then of course I see others with that same vision and put them in compartments. And then mercy and compassion will reach out to those who I feel connected with and I sense a belonging with them, but it won't reach the others. I belong, I put myself in a box, I put others in a box, and I can't relate to everyone. And so it's not going to be possible to see everyone as my brother and love each one as I love myself. But I don't even love myself. And so
ich muss anders sehen.
is to
Ich muss andere so lieben, wie ich mich selbst liebe.
Within and come to that awareness of the inner being that I am. And when I can see myself as that inner being of light, and I start to connect with the
Ich muss mich selbst als dieses innere Lichtwesen sehen.
Not the external qualities that I've acquired through society, parents, education, but the inner qualities of the soul itself. And when I'm connected to that quality of pure love that lies within, it's there, but I need to connect with it. And I'm able to love myself, value myself, have respect for myself. Then I can look out with eyes of compassion and mercy at what's going on around me.
Selbstrespekt haben, wenn ich mich selbst kann ich andere durch diese der Barmherzigkeit des Mitgefühls sehen. Liebe, wenn Liebe in die Handlung gebracht wird, dann ist das Mitgefühl. Ich muss also erstmal in mich selbst blicken und alle Negativität aus mir selbst aus mir selbst holen. Ich muss mit diesem ursprünglichen Wesenskern in mir verbunden bleiben und zulassen, dass dieser ursprüngliche Wesenskern sich ausdrücken kann. Und dann wird automatisch wirklich Mitgefühl, Empathie aus mir herauskommen. Also mit der Barmherzigkeit ist es so, wenn man zu viel Gewalt sieht und zu viele Dinge, die hart sind, dann erreicht man einen Punkt, wo man irgendwie taub wird. Und dann kann man einfach nicht mehr mitgefühlen. Ich bin dann nur auf der äußeren Ebene tief, kann dann nicht mehr die Tiefe tauchen. Nur wenn ich wirklich auf der inneren Ebene auch arbeite, dann kann ich mir das holen, was ich brauche. Und bei der Quelle. Und dann, nur dann kann ich das auch anderen zukommen lassen. wir brauchen die Versorgung, weil unsere eigene Quelle, unser eigener Vorrat ist sehr begrenzt. Das heißt, wir brauchen diese Verbindung nach oben, damit wir uns wieder füllen können. Das größte Mitgefühl ist, die größte Barmherzigkeit ist, wenn man anderen erklären kann, wie sie sich selber anfühlen kann, wie sie selbst anfühlen können und wie sie sich selbst das holen können, was sie brauchen, so dass sie das in ihr Leben bringen können. Ich bin natürlich noch für sie da. Falls sie Hilfe brauchen, dann helfe ich ihnen. Aber grundsätzlich ist es gut, wenn sie lernen, wie sie sich selber holen, was sie brauchen. Vielleicht braucht jemand gar kein Mitgefühl, sondern einfach Frieden. Wenn jemand Mitgefühl braucht, dann ist meistens das Herz friedlos und sie haben innere Kämpfe. Und wenn ich in so einem Augenblick ihnen ein Gefühl von Frieden gebe und ihnen helfe, sich selber mit der Quelle des Friedens zu verbinden, so dass sie auch die Liebe von Gott erfahren können und das Mitgefühl von Gott erfahren können und auch die Barmherzigkeit und die Reinigung und alles, was sie brauchen, um wieder ein vollständiger Mensch zu werden, der heil ist. So viele Menschen sind einfach gar nicht heil zurzeit. Sie sind beschädigt. Und deshalb denke ich, dass das höchste Mitgefühl, die größte Barmherzigkeit ist, dass man anderen das zeigt. Und dass wir auch aufpassen, dass sie selber nie leer werden. Als Dadis mit dem Dienst anfingen, hatten sie gerade 14 Jahre hinter sich, wo sie nur selber geübt haben, experimentiert haben, sich mit Gott verbunden haben und sich auf die Meditation konzentriert haben. Das war 14 Jahre lang. Und diese Zeit hat sie darauf vorbereitet, in die Welt zu gehen, der Welt das zu geben. Sie waren in der Lage, mit der Erfahrung, die sie hatten, anderen das zu geben. Jetzt haben wir Center, Niederlassungen in 120 Ländern und viele von euch haben diese Großzügigkeit, diese spirituelle Großzügigkeit schon erlebt und erfahren, dieses Mitgefühl und dass sie immer da waren für euch und euch geholfen haben, euch weiterzuentwickeln. Spirituelle Barmherzigkeit ist so wichtig und muss verstanden werden. Und auf so viele Menschen brauchen Heilung. Und meine ich jetzt nicht welche Heilung. Ja, Gebete und Meditation und diese Art von Schwingung, wenn man die rausschiebt, ja, da kann man auch Körper mit heilen, das ist richtig. Aber was ich meine, ist eher das Thema, was in vielen Gebieten der Welt so präsent ist, und das ist Trauma. Und zwar gemeinschaftliches Trauma. Wir hören Geschichten, wo ganze Völker ermordet werden. Es passieren so viele Dinge zurzeit. Es gibt so viel Dunkelheit in der Welt. Und ich glaube fest daran, dass bald das Licht sich verbreiten wird und die Dunkelheit weichen wird. Aber so viele Menschen brauchen wirklich Heilung. Also das denke ich, dass Qualität der Herzlichkeit und des Mitgefühls, das wird ihnen wirklich helfen. Aber zuerst müssen wir selber heilen. Das wissen wir. Und wenn wir selbst heilen, innerlich, dann kann das auch nach draußen gehen. Inwieweit liebe ich mich selbst? Ich muss erst mal mich selbst lieben und akzeptieren. Ich kenne mich selbst besser, als irgendjemand anders mich kennt. Und das meine ich auch wirklich so. Ich weiß, was ich erlebt habe. Ich weiß vielleicht nicht, wie sich das auf mich ausgewirkt hat. Das weiß ich vielleicht nicht, aber ich weiß, was ich durchgemacht habe. Ich kenne mich also selber sehr gut und ich weiß auch, welche Fehler ich gemacht habe. Ich kenne die Qualitäten, die ich habe, und ich weiß auch, dass ich nicht immer meine Qualitäten wirklich einsetze in meinem Leben. Also der erste Schritt überhaupt ist, dass ich nach innen blicke und dass ich mit Gottes Liebe, mit der Hilfe von Gottes Liebe mich selbst heile. Wenn ich dann sehe, dass jemand anders in Aufruhr ist, dann ist eine natürliche Aktion, dass ich da gehe, einen Arm um die Person lege und dann frage, brauchst du ein Glas Wasser oder brauchst du einen Tee? Dass man einfach zeigt, dass da jemand ist, der sich kümmert und der irgendetwas für ihn tun kann oder für sie. Vielleicht auch nur ein Tee, aber manchmal reicht das. Aber wenn ich mit mir selber nicht im Reinen bin oder sogar in Aufruhr bin, dann muss ich erstmal nach innen schauen und Mitgefühl mit mir selbst haben, Barmherzigkeit mir selbst gegenüber und mir selbst sagen, es ist alles okay, alles wird gut. Ich setze mich jetzt einfach mal still hin und gehe einfach mal nach innen und finde diesen Ort des Friedens in mir. Ich kann das für andere tun, aber ganz oft weiß man gar nicht, wie man das für sich selber tun kann. Also erstmal Mitgefühl oder Barmherzigkeit sich selbst gegenüber. Egal, ob ich einen Fehler gemacht habe oder ob ich etwas sehr gut gemacht habe, egal. Aber einfach immer, und zwar gleichbleibend, sich selbst wertzuschätzen und zu lieben. Ich meine jetzt kein Ego. Ego ist etwas ganz anderes. Das ist nicht Ego. Ego ist, wenn man besser sein will als jemand anderes. Dieses beinhaltet keinen Vergleich, was ich meine, sondern das ist einfach nur ich selbst, Wertschätzung für mich selbst. Die Verbindung mit Gott zu haben und zuzulassen, dass das Licht und die Liebe von Gott mich erreichen. Und wenn ich die Fähigkeit habe, das für mich selbst zu tun, auch ganz schnell auf dieser Ebene bleiben kann, dann schüttelt mich nichts mehr. Dann kann mich nichts mehr ins Wanken bringen, was äußerlich geschieht. Das ist auch das beste Weihnachtsgeschenk oder Neujahrsgeschenk, das ich mir selbst geben kann. Das heißt, wenn ich mich mit meiner eigenen inneren Wahrheit verbinde, mit meinen ursprünglichen Qualitäten des Friedens, der Liebe, der Reinheit, der Weisheit und des Glücks. Diese sind mein Geburtsrecht. Jede Seele hat diese Qualitäten in sich. Das ist in der Seele verankert. Diese Erkenntnis ist das höchste Mitgefühl mit mir selber oder die höchste Barmherzigkeit, die ich für mich selbst haben kann. Und wenn ich in der Lage bin, das zu tun, dann behalte ich mich auf einer bestimmten stabilen Ebene. Und dann, was auch immer 2022 auf uns zukommt, vielleicht kommen dann noch ein paar Schocks, wer weiß. Wir sind mit der einen Pandemie noch nicht durch und die Wissenschaftler erzählen uns, dass da noch mehr kommt. Ich denke, dass keiner das abstreiten kann, dass sicherlich noch mehr kommt. Aber es hängt an mir, wofür ich entscheide. Wenn ich denke, dass nach dieser Dunkelheit das Licht kommt, wenn ich da ganz sicher bin und wenn ich weiß, nach der Nacht kommt der Tag, nach der Dunkelheit kommt das Licht. Und wenn ich das schaffe, jegliche Angst aus mir zu entfernen und in diesen Zustand der Klarheit komme, dann ist es ein guter Dienst an mir selber. Und dann kann ich diesen Dienst auch anderen anbieten. Denn die Erfahrung, die ich selber mache, das ist die Schwingung, die ich rausschicke. Ich muss dann gar nichts sagen. Ich muss niemandem anders sagen, dass ich gerade Angst habe. Das kann jemand anders fühlen, wenn ich Angst habe. Die Schwingung, die ich aussende, ist für andere ganz klar spürbar. Alle, die um mich herum sind, alle, die um mich herum sind, die fühlen das auch. Und plötzlich haben alle Angst. Angst führt zu Lähmung. Man weiß nicht, was man dann machen soll. Und das ist doch nicht wirklich eine gute Art und Weise, ein neues Jahr zu beginnen. Deshalb entscheidet euch dafür, Barmherzigkeit euch selbst gegenüber zu haben und wirklich eine Stabilität aufrechtzuerhalten, wo nur ich die Verantwortung für meine Welt habe, weil ich die Verantwortung für mich selbst übernehme, eine Selbstsouveränität herstelle. Und ja, und dann kann ich ein Instrument sein, das alle um mich herum unterstützt. Da, wo andere Angst haben, wird meine Gegenwart ihnen ein Gefühl von Sicherheit und Schutz geben. Und sie werden auch darauf kommen, welche Qualitäten sie in sich haben. Deshalb ganz speziell jetzt am Ende von 2021, nach 2 ziemlich verrückten Jahren, wir haben niemals gedacht, dass wir all die Dinge sehen würden, die wir gesehen haben in den letzten 2 Jahren. Aber deshalb ist es jetzt wichtig, dass wir einmal nach innen blicken und schauen, was geht in mir vor und was möchte ich in 2022 tun. Wie möchte ich sein? Jeder Augenblick, der vergeht, ist ein Signal für mich. Wir bewegen uns auf das Licht zu, in jedem Augenblick. Wir verlassen die Dunkelheit und wir nähern uns dem Licht. Also viel Mitgefühl, Barmherzigkeit für alle, denen ich begegne. Und ja, zu kleinen Finger der Unterstützung kann ich darin anbieten. Zuerst auf jeden in mir anfangen, weil es gibt nicht genug Menschen, die es tun. Wenn es genug Menschen gibt, die Barmherzigkeit für sich selbst haben und stabil sind, dann ist es auch egal wie viele das sind, selbst wenn es eine Minderheit ist, die aber kraftvoll ist, dann kann sie eine starke Wirkung auf die Menschheit haben. Die ganze Welt muss sich nicht verändern. Es kann eine Minderheit sein, das reicht, wenn die sich verändert, wenn die stark wird und wenn die sich innerlich verändert. Und diese Minderheit, diese Gruppe kann eine große Wirkung durch ihre gemeinschaftliche Schwingung haben auf die Mehrheit der Menschheit, so dass alle in Richtung Licht gehen. Auf diese Art und Weise bewegt sich die Menschheit in diese Zukunft. Was alle Menschen gemeinsam haben, ist die Güte, nicht Boshaftigkeit. Gott ist der Schöpfer, so sehen wir ihn. Und sowohl die östlichen als auch die westlichen Schriften sagen, dass Gott die Welt so geschaffen hat, wie er selber ist. Also wenn Gott absolut ist, was ich glaube das, da muss überall diese Güte sein. Und diese Güte muss auch an jedem einzelnen Menschen sein. Das heißt letztendlich, am Ende, nach all der Dunkelheit, wird das Licht und das Gute siegen. Und dazu gibt es so viele Geschichten. Und diese Geschichten, die es gibt, die haben alle eine gewisse Wahrheit in sich. Und deswegen mögen wir sie. Jede Kultur, jede Tradition kennt diese Geschichten. Es gibt doch auch die Geschichte der 5 Pandavas und tausende Kauravas. Nur 5 Pandavas waren es. Aber die 5 Pandavas haben es geschafft, die tausenden anderen zu besiegen. Also die Kraft der Barmherzigkeit, die Kraft des Mitgefühls, erst in uns selber und dann nach draußen. Wir sind diejenigen, die eine solche Welt erschaffen müssen. Und diese Energie, wenn einige zusammenkommen und diese Energie verbreiten, dann wird sich das auswirken auf die ganze Welt. Und dann wird das Ganze beendet. Und dann werden alle Menschen Frieden erfahren. Jayanti, jetzt gibt es noch Fragen und Antworten, aber ich muss mit der Übersetzung jetzt aufhören, weil ich noch einen anderen Termin habe. Sorry, aber geht nicht anders.
Love and peace are the two values. Someone is asking that which are the powers which are needed to inculcate mercy in the self, for self and others as well.
I think the power to turn inwards, that's a very important starting point to develop any quality in my life. And then secondly, I think the power of tolerance. So sometimes we don't realize how intolerant we are, and yet our space to lose our tolerance capacity. But if I turn and drawing on that awareness within, then my capacity for tolerance also increases. And those two together will allow mercy and compassion to happen.
Thank you. A few questions coming from doctors. I knew this would be up from the doctors definitely. The first one is about mercy killing, that is euthanasia. So, your comments on that?
From my spiritual journey, what I've understood is that even when there is pain, if we can comfort the patient with just allow them to be in God's remembrance, then each moment that passes in God's remembrance is of value and benefit. And so, no, we would not support euthanasia.
Right. Another question, again, a doctor is asking that as doctors, we are taught to be sympathetic, not empathetic. I mean, you rightly pointed that mercy and is more care and concern when we say sympathy. So as doctors and nurses, we see a lot of pain around us all the time, so we should be sympathetic, because if we start being in their shoes and start being empathetic, we get very emotionally drained out by the end of the day, and then we'll experience what we call compassion fatigue, which is the term very commonly used nowadays. So how do we strike this balance of being sympathetic, yes, but also have this little bit of spiritual touch of being empathetic as well towards them?
You're interested in the path of spirituality. Spirituality is teaching me how to go inside and connect with another human being on that inner level of being able to understand them and, yes, be in their shoes, to know what is the pain that they're going through. And yet, simply at that moment, with that understanding, be an instrument to be able to allow them to receive God's light. And they have to believe. Whether they believe or not is secondary. If I believe, then I know that that light is going to help them. And it won't be a drain for me. It won't be that I'm emotionally entangled, because my spiritual training is to experience myself as that unique individual soul and have that experience of being able to be detached, but yet also caring and empathetic.
Wow, wonderful, amazing answer, because each to his own. I have to look at how I need to deal with patients. Okay, a few days ago, Didi, it's a question from one of our translators. She was wanting to get this from you. I think it was in the spiritual versions which we revise, the English versions which you revise every Monday, that give corrections by being merciful. And then your mercy will work in such a way that others' weaknesses will be forgiven. So if you want to just elucidate on this.
I'm thinking about the spiritual mother of the Brahma Kumaris, and I had the good fortune of meeting her a few times. And she had this amazing spiritual capacity in which she would be able to understand the weakness of another and help them understand what it is they needed to do, but also just share spiritual power with them so that they were able to deal with it, not just help them understand that this is a weakness that they have, but to actually support them and empower them so that they could finish it. So that is very high level of mercy and spirituality. And I've also seen that happen with others who followed in her footsteps, the dadis of our organization, the elders, and many of them had this capacity to make you realize something, but also help you change it.
Thank you, Didi. You said we all love stories. So you want to hear a few stories about how you being merciful, you have a beautiful, merciful heart. So how your merciful heart has really transformed people. Can you please share those stories?
It's very difficult to share a story about the self in that way. So I'll just share one thing. This would have been quite a while ago, but I had a phone call. I was here in London, and I had a phone call from a relative of mine who lives here. And she said that her son had died suddenly, and he was just in his, I think at that point, late 30s, early 40s. And could I come and support the family? And it was early in the morning. I went across, and I could see that the daughter-in-law was really very, very emotionally scarred by this. She was really very, very upset. Her sons were there with her, and they didn't know how to help the mother. The mother-in-law didn't know how to help her. And I wasn't that close to her, but I just went across and gave her just a lot of love and slowly just talking about the soul and the way that she could help the soul that had gone, that it would be possible, God's love to reach that soul and get that soul peace and so on. And the boys were very interested in what I was saying. And so very gently they started asking questions. And so I was answering questions on the basis of the spiritual teachings. And where I'd been just talking to her, it was difficult for her to stop sobbing. But now she got interested in the answers I was giving her young sons. And she started listening with attention. And I realized the power of spiritual teachings, that you might be talking, but the other one there is listening. And their mindset gets shifted. So it started just with offering her love, but then her understanding of spiritual teachings, even in that space of half an hour, calmed her down. And today she studies the teachings and practices meditation herself. And she would be the first one to acknowledge that it was that visit, that time spent with her, and the teachings. I wouldn't say it was me, but it was the teachings, as she heard the teachings, that helped her move out of that darkness and come to a different awareness. And she's created a very good life for herself.
Right. Thank you. Another interesting question, which shows the brother has got conflict in his mind about this. One point he's saying that God has really punished us by sending us COVID for the past 2 years. He's punishing us for our past sins, whatever we have done. And at the same time, you call him here as Ocean of Mercy. He's ever forgiving. So, how do we understand this paradox?
God is love. God is truth. God is not one who punishes us. Let me give you a simple example. The teacher who teaches you is there to teach you. When it's a major examination, then it's not the teacher who's testing you. It's external investigators, examiners who are going to mark your paper. And so similarly, God is our parent, God is our teacher, God is our guide, but is not testing us, is not checking up on us. But as I follow God's spiritual laws and I experience God's love and allow that to transform me, I am being prepared for whatever it is that's coming as a direct result of human intervention in the laws of nature. It's very clear that we have eroded the boundaries of nature and we've taken over all the areas that used to be rural areas or wildlife areas, and we've taken them for our own benefit without respecting nature on any level. Instead of revering nature as a goddess, the mother who has sustained us, we have exploited, assaulted, and violated nature. And so what we're seeing in the pandemic is the comeback of that. It's certainly not something that God is doing to us. Absolutely not. And yes, it's not just the laws of nature that we've broken, but we've broken all the human laws also. Our lifestyle has been so completely topsy-turvy where we've put money top of the list rather than human values or relationships or even concern for our own home, this planet, the environment. And so we should expect that there's going to be more pandemics. That's not me being a horrible doom master, but it's actually what the scientists are telling us. Expect more of the same. Plus also the impact of human intervention in nature has caused all the crazy weather that we are seeing. When did you see typhoons come one after another, with no space for breathing in between? When did you see things like this happen across the world? When was it that the glaciers were melting? The list is infinite, but all of it is evidence of human violation of the laws of nature, the laws of spirituality and God.
So can we human beings do something to change this?
Yes, we can change ourselves. We have to change ourselves. This is the big lesson of the last 2 years. Well, I would say actually the last few centuries. We've been totally materialistic. We have to come back to that understanding of our spiritual identity and the values that lie in, and start seeing those values in our interactions with each other and with nature and the animals.
Sure, fantastic. We just have 3 more minutes. I'll take a few more questions. A brother is asking what to do if someone is taking undue advantage of me being merciful to them all the time.
I think I have to be smart enough and spiritually aware enough to not let that happen. So that, yes, there is mercy, there is compassion, but I have to set the boundaries where I think that those boundaries are not being kept. So I have to gently, quietly, but very clearly explain what those boundaries are. I have to understand the boundaries myself, but then let me explain them to the other and say that this is it, no more than this. And if you go beyond, I'm sorry, I won't be around to help you.
Right, great. At this juncture, someone is asking about karmic accounts. That you actually mentioned about this, not about karmic accounts. You mentioned that when we apply this virtue of mercy, we should make sure that the person whom we are being merciful towards should not become dependent on us. So, how should we make sure that we are not creating more karmic accounts, whether we are settling them or whether we are creating new ones? Is there a method to recognize that?
The mantra is, let me be the one who's able to give. When I give, let me know that I'm simply an instrument of the divine. And when I begin to think I am giving, that's karma. When I know I'm an instrument to give, there's no karma involved there. Then they're receiving what comes from the divine, not from me. And so where I think I am giving, that's my karma. And where it is I stop giving and I expect them to give to me, that's karma.
Beautiful explanation. And I'll take this last question. How to develop a merciful heart and have benevolent feelings towards corrupt politicians who are a cause of misery in the society?
I'm not sure that I need to remember politicians in my meditations. Let the politicians do what they can do. But what I have to do is generate those feelings of God's love and God's light and send them out to the world so that everybody's able to experience the benefit of that and love. I don't need to give too much time, energy thinking about politicians.
Great. And Didi, I'll just take this last bit because I think one of the sisters just listened to the climate change thing which you told us. She says, I want to ask Sister Jayanti's spiritual advice on the vaccination dilemma. to accept vaccination or not? And secondly, she's saying, what is the most merciful choice on the vaccination dilemma and the consequences of that for the environment and people? So you want to comment on that? Yeah.
There's a huge amount of information available, pro-vaccine and anti-vax, and it's not my place to get into that debate. So I'm sorry, I will not give you an answer to that. You have to make that decision for yourself.
Great. Thank you so much for bearing with us and our questions. So I would now want to immensely thank you, and the official thank yous again. So I would first request Dr. Ashok Mehta, followed by Sister Claudia. Over to you, Dr. Mehta.
Shanti, gentlemen.
Om Shanti.
It was a great exponent of the thoughts on mercy. We as doctors and I as a cancer surgeon have been involved in dealing with lots of patients requiring help, lots of them requiring your both physical, emotional, as well as spiritual help. And I must tell you one thing, that when I look back, it was my schooling, what I learned from my teachers, what I learned from my own family, from my own grandmother, really helped me tremendously to develop that attitude of mercy, that value of mercy. And of course, I was born in a religion, the Jain religion, where ahimsa was a way of life and not to give to anybody. And finally, of course, it's the Baba's teachings. It's amazing impact on our life all along. And I think if you are merciful and if you want to do something, as you said, few people can do a lot. And I remember my first visit to Mount Abu and the thought of creating the global hospital, because I saw the two people really getting heart attack and there was no space for them to be treated. I think that is how it helps, the inner power of valuing others as well as the mercy. I think what you have said was so immense, touching all aspects of mercy, especially when you talked about the environment and you talked about the virus. I think the question you didn't answer about the vaccination, I can only say this, that what science knows today is we should vaccinate it to at least protect ourselves. Whatever the opinions of others, whatever it is, we have seen it throughout our development, whether it was a polio, whether it was a smallpox, whether all other vaccines which have helped eliminate the diseases in the past. So I think vaccination, we should not get into the debate, take it. I think a lot of debate today is because of, I think trillions of dollars are involved and a huge industry in it, and national pride as well as other considerations. But as far as the medicine goes, I think vaccination is what it's going to help. So thank you very much, Jayanti, for touching all aspects of mercy in a beautiful, scholastic way and as a spiritual way that we have been learning from the teachings. Thank you very much. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
Yeah.
Yes. Didi, I really like to thank you. I like to say thank you and also merci beaucoup, because we are in Canada, so we have the two language. So actually, I think it was a very great gift that we got today in the Boxing Day. When I was thinking today is Boxing Day, what better gift do we have than have you talking to us about mercy? And of course, like many times when I work with the patient and I say them to say thank you to me, I think that pays more than anything else. I think when we see somebody suffering or for anything, mentally or body and we help them, that thank you it doesn't pay. There is no money in that involved. It's the best thing. And I really like to thank you for explaining to us in every little detail about mercy. And because today is gifted Boxing Day, I have a little gift for you. So that is from us to you. So you can be there.
Thank you.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. Merci. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. In French, I think mercy is thank you. Yeah, fantastic. And Brother Eric also mentioned he had to leave because he had another meeting. And I would now quickly request Sister Anu to do the announcements, and then we'll take the drishti from Didi, the last 10 minutes. Yeah.
So, yeah, with our heart filled of Didi for beautiful sharing on mercy. I want to announce quickly our next program is the Values Workshop on mercy, as we always do after 1 week. It will have 1 hour of experiential exercises, and followingly, there will be the insightful talk and meditation by Sister Pratibha from Kenya, Africa. So it's happening Saturday, 1st of January. So that's the good start of 2022. Request or and join at 45 p.m. time. That's 6:15 a.m. morning, West Coast, US, Canada, 5:15 p.m. for Nairobi, Africa, where Sister Pratibha will be joining us from. And our next episode of Values for Life series is episode number 30 on perseverance, Atalta in Hindi. And we'll again have our very valuable Asha Didi from ORC, happening 8th of January, 2 weeks after, on Saturday time, India time, I am West Coast, Canada. Join force, so please make a note and we'll see you there. And you can find all the information on our websites. That's vihasa.in, vancouver.brahmakumaris.ca. The YouTube channels you can check for all the videos, and you can send us any query to our emails. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sister Anu. So we'll move on to the silence meditation with Jayanti Didi. So thank you so much, Jayanti Didi, once again for accepting our invite, and thanks a lot. Bye.
Thank you.